Welcome everyone to this week's Maternity and Midwifery Hour. We've got sunshine outside, which is fantastic, and I want to welcome everybody from wherever you are in the world to this evening. And I'm delighted we have two lovely guests this evening, Sarah Lam and Betty Hutchon. And because we're very mean to our guests and we make them come up with a moment of the week. So please, could you share your moment of the week? And I'll start with Sarah because she's just remembered what she was going to share with us.
Oh, hello, everyone. Well, this week is special at the Brazelton Centre. We host our annual Baby Communication Week. It's been a very busy week, but a very positive one. And I had a really lovely moment yesterday when I did a sort of post on Instagram asking, where in the world are people getting involved and supporting this week from? And I had all these responses, and I just felt so happy and so grateful. There were people from New Zealand and Chile and France, and I just thought, this is amazing. It's just been a few years, but it's really spread. So that was a lovely moment of joy.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sarah. That's a lovely moment of the week to share.
Yeah.
How about Betty? Have you got something similar?
Thank you, Sue. Well, I have one related to midwifery because I'm in Mallorca at the minute, and I saw a friend today and I was telling her what I was doing tonight. And she was telling me about a very good friend of hers has had a baby here in Mallorca. Well, didn't have a baby in Mallorca, but the baby is 4 months old. And she said, she's amazing with the baby. I've never seen anyone so great with such a young baby. And so she said, I asked her, how come you're so great with your baby? And she said, I had the baby in Austria, and you get a lot of midwifery help. She said, the midwives helped me a lot to look after my baby, to get to know my baby. And this is why I'm so good with my baby. So thank you. I know that was Austria, but still I thought, oh, amazing. What a nice story.
Well, I think as midwives, we'll share that, or student midwives as well. Yeah. If there's an Austrian midwife watching, make yourself known on the chat box and we'll say hello. That's great. That is fantastic, Betty. I think that really underlines the importance of what we take kind of for granted in our day-to-day business. So thank you so much for that. And, I didn't even introduce myself. I forgot, sorry. My name's Sue Macdonald. I'm the curator for the Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the Maternity and Midwifery Festivals. And it's my pleasure, as I always say, to be here this evening chairing this session. So I'm just going to go through the usual little snippety bits before we get to Betty and Sarah, who are going to do a bit of a double act. A great treat for us all. Now, I'm just going to remind those of you who are watching who are regulars, but also those of you who are new to Maternity and Midwifery Hour. We started this right at the beginning of the pandemic and the first lockdown in the UK. And it was a way of really getting midwives and student midwives and everyone who's in maternity care really connected and able to get information in quite a digestible format. It's only an hour a week, but we were trying to get lots of information about the COVID-19, also other things that were going on in maternity, to really make people feel as though they knew what was happening and felt connected. It was a weird time. And now, as we're thinking back, it seems somehow quite far away, and yet not. It's not really that long ago, and we still have COVID around, and we still need to look after ourselves and each other. And we started this. So everything is recorded. For those who've never watched us before, everything's recorded. So if you miss anything, you can catch up later. And if you want to share this session tonight, as I think you might well want to with your colleagues or your student group, if you're in a student group, you can do that. And you can access it on Netflix because they keep everything, record everything, and you can access it for free. And we love you to share. It's really important to do that. And it's a really good way of cementing knowledge in your brain, but also helping other people know what's going on in the world. So do share. If you're doing any projects or dissertations or anything like that, Matflix do offer a kind of subscription box set system, and that can be really good if your time is very short. It's quite a cheap process on a monthly basis, and you can just go into it. The only problem with it is it could be a little bit addictive, and you might get addicted to our box sets, you know. So I'm just giving you a little health warning there. Now, I'm also going to say a big thank you to our student midwives and our midwives. Now, we're coming up to our sort of student midwives celebration, I think, which is on, I think it's the 17th of June. So that's in my mind, but also our midwives as well. And I know everyone's working really hard. I know we're short of staff, and it goes all over the country, and everyone's working their socks off to make sure that the care is given to mothers and families at highest possible quality. So thank you for all the things you do, and thank you actually also to all of the NHS colleagues, because I find it such a precious thing, our NHS. It's very close to my heart. So I want to just say you're all marvellous and wonderful, and I love you all, and just keep on doing what you're doing, and don't go off to all. Well, no, you do travel off in the world, because that's a good thing to do. But come back and bring all your skills and knowledge to us. And welcome also to anyone who's come in from overseas as well, because those people bring in something precious to our service. So I'm going to now zip into the news. We haven't got a huge amount, but it is National Care Day today. And yesterday was National Home Birth Day. And it was lovely. For those of you who are into Twitter and Facebook, there were lots of little stories going on. And you might be able to catch up, if you didn't catch up yesterday, to some of the stories and some of the sharing that was going on. Very positive that when people share, especially when midwives share their own experiences of home birth. So good on them for that. Now, there's lots in the media today about this new pilot initiative to offer people with obesity this sort of drug and medication treatment to support. It sounds a huge amount of money, and it's something very important. Apart from, I've got in my mind this ultra processed people. I don't know if anyone's read the book by the Xander. Chris Van Tulloken. I've got the name wrong. Sorry, Chris. I'm just reading the book, and it's very interesting because it gives you a different perspective on food and what we do eating wise. So, I mean, that's off the top of my head there. Now, the other thing is, of course, the International Confederation of Midwives have got their Congress going on in Bali. So there's lots of our colleagues, our midwives, going off to Bali or tuning in to Bali for the conference. So you'll have noticed there's a lot of activity there. Now, some of them are going to have a little holiday as well, and good on them for doing that. But we are taking the opportunity. The Maternity Midwifery Forum are going to be getting information on a regular basis from Bali. So look out for the newsletter and any little news feeds that we have, because that'll keep you up to date with what's going on. And I'm also going to remind you, you can register for the Manchester Festival. The programme's out, and it's 4th of July, and it's in Manchester. But as you know, since COVID, everything we do is hybrid. So we have the face-to-face event in Manchester, but we also have the everything's recorded, so you can access online if you can't get to Manchester. If you can get to Manchester, do go, because it's great. But if not, watch online. And there's also a welcoming International Nursing Midwives Conference event, and that's online, and that's on the 20th of June. So look on the, where you registered today, that's got a whole list of all the events that you can access. So do have a look at that. And also, as I come towards the end of the news, I'm just mentioning, I think we mentioned it last week as well, and I know Sheena Byram also mentioned it, the Maternity and Midwifery Forum crowdfunding project. Now, as you know, I've just said everything's for free. Some things we have a subscription, but we are keen to develop further, and especially in developing the technology and the upgrades and cataloguing, all the things. There is a cost to it. You may or may not know our speakers do all the things they do for free. I do it for free. Our team do a lot of this, especially the maternity hour, for free. But but there are costs to the tech especially. So if you have some spare cash, if you could look at the QR code, and I always have difficulty remembering the QR code name, you can donate whatever you can. It doesn't have to be very much, but there are some benefits included. So have a look after the show and have a look on the website to see if you could give a little bit of money towards the crowdfunding. It would be really helpful. Oh, I feel as though I've chased and galloped through that. Now, but we're getting on to the main meat of the evening, and I'm so delighted. We're going to be looking at communicating with babies, and we know it's important to communicate with babies, and they do have a kind of different language to us, and each baby, and I think we have to remember this and help mums remember this, each baby is very much an individual, just as we are, and they all have a slightly different way of communicating. And this week is perfect, which Sarah has really highlighted, is Baby Communication Awareness Week. And so I know that the Brazelton Centre are doing a whole awareness week with lots of activities. Now, I've been more aware, as anyone who watches regularly will know, I'm a tweeter and I love the tweets. And there's been a little series of little video clips, which were fantastic, not too long. So you've got time in your coffee break to have a little look. We've had Betty this week talking about it. And they're all different subjects. They are on the resources page, just so you know. So you could just go in. They're all kept on YouTube. They're really useful. So I'm going to introduce our two lovely speakers. We have Betty Hutchon, and now she's been the head of paediatric OT, and she's Honorary Neurodevelopment Consultant at UCH. She's one of 13 of the Brazelton Centre UK Master Trainers in NBAS, and she's going to explain that, I'm sure, and NBO, and the co-founder of Brazelton Centre UK, and also a granny. Very important. Very proud. She's very proud of that. And she's also set up a charity promoting evidence-based early intervention, and that's also on the resource sheet, and well worth going to visit and have a look at what is available there. And she is joined by Sarah Lam, Communications Manager for the Brazelton Centre UK, and she's leading the planning and running the annual Baby Communication Week. She's got a background in midwifery and was involved in neonatal research. She also develops resources for parents and professionals to understand baby behaviour, and has planned international conferences for babies and parents in the world. And she was just sharing how exciting that is when you can communicate with people around the world about this very important topic of communicating with babies. So welcome to Sarah and to Betty. The screen is now yours. Over to you.
Well, yes, thank you so much, Sue, for welcoming us and inviting us to come and join you for this maternity hour. You're joined with Betty and I today, but we are here to kind of represent the whole of the Brazelton Centre UK. We have a really wonderful team. We feel like a family, and here's just a picture of us. That was from last year. We had our 25th anniversary, yes, so that is a picture, and that has our trainers, our trustees, our executive team, and even our patrons. So that's all of us. And just to give a little quick intro to who we are. So the Brazelton Centre UK, we really want to support parent-infant relationships, so the relationship between a new parent and their baby and other caregivers and the wider family, and that is particularly through promoting an understanding of babies' behaviour and communication. So we're going to talk lots about that this evening, and the kind of main activity of the Brazelton Centre and how we do that is through training courses for practitioners. So we train in the neonatal behavioural assessment scale and the newborn behavioural observations. And again, we'll come on to those a little bit later. And also just the lovely thing to mention is we're the Brazelton Centre in the UK, but we're also connected to a network of training sites across the world. The NBAS, I'll call these for short now, the NBAS and the NBO, they are used by practitioners all around the world, and that is due to the fact that all babies have the same communication methods from birth. So that is a really fascinating thing, and you can actually find out more about the other sites around the world. I think Sue is going to share the link with you to a website called Newborn Behaviour International, so you can go and see about other colleagues. And also to say, if you are joining internationally, then that is wonderful, because this is just as relevant for you. So thank you, everyone who's watching or listening. We're really, really pleased to be able to talk with you today. Okay, so let's go into it. So, communicating with babies. In the next half an hour or so, Betty and I would love to invite you to explore with us the wonderful world of newborn babies. We will share the way in which babies communicate and look at why it's so important to understand a baby's communication. And we'll also talk about how professionals working with babies can develop these invaluable skills in bringing the baby's communication, the baby's voice, into the care that they give. So, communication. Now, I think we all know that for a relationship to blossom, we need good communication. Communication is a two-way thing, isn't it? And it's about really having an understanding of the other person, how they're feeling, and you know, what they want to tell us about themselves or in any moment. And it's the same with babies. When we talk about communicating with babies, we need to remember that they are active and not passive participants in relationships, which is really exciting. And what that means is not only are we encouraging parents to talk to their baby, which is really important. And I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, the midwife asked me, "Have you been talking to your baby?" And I thought that was wonderful, because it is really important. But it's also really important to know that babies are communicating back. They are part of that relationship, and it's really important that we can know kind of their side of the conversation. So, before we kind of dive in to look at how babies communicate, I thought it would be good just to take a moment to remember that it wasn't really relatively that long ago that we had such a different understanding and view of newborn babies, that they couldn't feel pain, that they couldn't see or hear. Really just like kind of reflexive organisms, very passive, and it was actually through the work of a man called Dr. Brazelton, a paediatrician, and other colleagues of his, that actually the way that we understand babies has really changed. He revolutionized the way that we understand babies. And this was kind of happening around kind of the 50s, 60s, 70s. And he was really strong in fighting against some of the strongly held views. But one quote that I just love, it really captures Dr. Brazelton's kind of humour. But this is one I wanted to share with you. He said, "All the greats in our past history said they didn't think babies were people until they were 3 or 4 months and been shaped by the environment. Where did we get such a stupid idea?" So let's see. What did Dr. Brazelton help us to understand about babies? So again, yes, through his work and others that he worked with, we understood some really foundational key things about newborn babies. And each of these things are really important. We know that babies are competent, so we can think about them using from birth all their senses. They are organised with a system of behaviours. They are social beings, so they actively engage in transforming their own environment, and they're individual. One baby is not the same as another baby. They already come with their own unique set of dispositions and sensibilities. So if you think about it, how would it make a difference interacting with a baby if we looked at them like this compared to many years ago, looking at a baby, not thinking that they could hear or see, that they were passive, they weren't engaging socially? It would really transform the way that we interacted with that baby, wouldn't it? We would really, it would just be almost us communicating to them, but actually there is so much going on for that baby, and they are already come with skills to transition to the world and to engage with the world. Okay, so this is all about baby behaviour. And this is something that Dr. Brazelton said: a baby's behaviour is their language, and you can trust that language. So when we talk about baby communication, what we mean is baby behaviour. Babies use their behaviour to communicate. And what is behaviour? I think the kind of easiest way to think about it is what we call body language. So behaviour really is everything. It's the baby's movements and sounds, their expressions, their state, even really subtle things like their breathing rate, and if they have any colour change in their skin. It all has meaning, and nothing that a baby does is random. So it's about being aware of those all those little cues and getting to know what they mean. And through those things, the baby will show how they're feeling. Are they comfortable? Are they feeling a bit overwhelmed? Are they saying, "I'm ready to chat"? Are they saying, "I'm feeling tired"? And why does this matter? Well, the real key thing here is that this getting to know what the baby is saying is the best guide for parents as they care for their baby and they get to know them. And I think many parents wish that their baby came with a manual, and that is because parents want to do the best for their baby. That's why they want to know the best way to do it, what is best for my baby. But one thing that we can share with them and encourage them as parents is that they don't need a manual to understand their baby. This is what Dr. Kevin Nugent said. Your baby is the manual, so it's about reading them, and they will show you, they will guide you, and you don't know everything all at once, but it's a relationship. As you get to know them, you will get to see what kind of things comfort them, how they show you that they're overwhelmed. So we want to say to parents, don't worry, and it's not always about getting it right. It's not about being perfect. It's about that relationship, and that baby knows that you are there, and that you are trying your best, and that you are wanting to respond, and you're wanting to understand them. Another reason that baby behaviour is important is, again, about that transition to the world. It's a whole new world for babies. They are in this perfect, constant, warm, dark place in the womb. Then they come out, and there's just all the senses, all the lights, the sounds, the change in temperature, the movement, all kinds of things. And babies can show us through their behaviour that actually they're finding things a little much, and they would like things to calm down. They would like to have a little break. They would like you to help make the environment a bit calmer. And so when you know those signs and signals, you're able to notice them and to help your baby. And the last thing is about being able to respond to the baby. So you're not able to respond quite as well if you don't know what you're responding to. But if you get to know what that baby's saying, you know, they're hungry, and so I will feed them, or they're awake, they're calm and alert. They want to chat and they want to play. So you're able to respond. And of course, we know that these positive interactions and these the baby being responded to is really important for their early brain development, as they have these positive interactions and these the baby being responded to is really important for their early brain development, as they have these positive experiences, these warm, sensitive, responsive experiences. It helps with their brain growing. All those pathways will strengthen in the right places. So that is another reason that it's really important. So this is the part where I'm going to hand over for a bit to Betty. So we've had a little bit of a look at what baby communication is, the fact that babies communicate through their behaviour, and why it does matter, why it's important for parents. So I'm hoping that all of you that are listening that work with newborn babies and their families, hopefully you're thinking, okay, so what's next? How do I put this into practice? How do I bring the baby's communication, the baby's voice into my care and advice and support as a practitioner? And so, Betty, if you're happy, I will hand over to you.
Yes, do. Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you to Sue so much for inviting the Brazelton Centre. And it's a real pleasure to be here this evening. talking particularly to midwives. And, midwives are key in all of this because it's communication right from the beginning and how you start out with your baby. And I think, just going back to say something about Dr. Brazelton, he was seen as a bit of a rogue initially way back in the 70s by some of the medical field who didn't think what he was doing was very scientific, and things weren't very touchy-feely there, And I worked in a neonatal unit in the 90s, and I remember the neonatologist telling me, it's not that long since we have started to believe that babies in a neonatal unit, preterm babies, feel pain. We always thought that they didn't feel pain. So this was a very prevalent belief, and that babies couldn't see and so on. So, and one of the things I think that really will interest you about Dr. Brazelton, he used to say, he was a pediatrician, but he retrained as a child psychiatrist, and then he went back to pediatrics. And he said the reason he retrained was in pediatrics, it seemed to be always looking at what's wrong with the baby. And in psychiatry, he could look at, differently. He could take a more holistic approach. And he said what he wanted to do is look at what's right with the baby. And I think that that's key to this whole, the NBO and the NBAS, what we observe about the baby, because we're observing what the baby can do. And for me in my work, I was always working with preterm babies or babies with syndromes, maybe Down syndrome and so on, babies who had brain injury. And it didn't matter about really the medical history, because you're looking at every baby as an individual. And this is the starting point. So I'm just going to talk to you now about the NBO, the Newborn Behavioural Observation, which we've mentioned the NBAS, which is an assessment, NBAS, but NBO is an interactive tool. It's a relationship building tool. So it's there not to assess the baby or assess the mother or parent. It's very much about to build the relationship, the parent-infant relationship. So it's a relationship building tool, and it's for babies from around about term age. I would use it very carefully with babies at 35, 36 weeks, but generally 37 weeks up until 3 months post-term age. And you use it obviously with the caregiver to look at how the baby is communicating. And all those things Sarah mentioned are important, but unless you have a framework to look at communication, it's very hard to know, well, how do I know that this is a sign that the baby is wanting more interaction? How do I know that this is a sign the baby needs a little time out? How do I know that this is a sign that the baby's overstimulated? And this is what the NBO gives you. It gives you a very nice framework in order to hang your thoughts and hang your clinical reasoning to look at what the baby's doing and to make sense of it. Next slide, Sarah. So it's strengths-based. So as I said, Dr. Brazelton was all about what babies can do. So it doesn't matter, some babies do more or less than others. It's a very supportive way to look at the baby, and it keys the parent in straight away because you're looking at the baby together and you're making meaning of things. As Sarah said, no behavior is random. So it's very much about, oh, that was interesting. Oh, did you see that? Did you see what your baby just did? Oh, I wonder maybe that's a little sign now that they would like a little time out. Do you think? Well, let's just see what happens next. So you don't know. It's a kind of voyage of discovery about each baby. And even the same baby isn't going to be the same every day, so it's all the time thinking about these are the little communication cues or the behavioral cues that the baby is communicating to us, and let's make meaning and make sense. And it really, really makes a very strong connection between parent and infant, and gets rid of some of the myths. I was talking about, my Monday talk was about the myth about crying being the only method of communication. And we know that every baby is different, and the same baby can be different tomorrow, what they're communicating. So this is what we want to have, this framework, which is what the NBO is. Next slide, Sarah. So it's again at this beginning to see the baby as a person. And I was interested in the quote that Sarah used, because of course, we know that also what Dr. Brazelton was saying was so important, but then we also know that babies are shaped by their environment, and the environment isn't always the ideal environment that we would like, and or that we know is supportive to that baby's brain development. And so I think using something like the NBO can also really help parents construct the kind of environment that is going to be supportive to their baby, rather than it be too late. We know that maybe 3 months down the line, then patterns are already built up. And this is why health visitors midwives are so key to this, because you're there from the moment of birth, and you would be in a very key role in order to look at the baby to get together with the parent. So, and then the parent can begin to say, oh, this baby is a little person, they're not just this kind of bundle of reflexes. And they can look at their baby's unique kind of competencies. And some things maybe they find difficult, like nappy changing. We know that's a really common one that babies initially may find quite difficult. And using something like the NBO, it helps the parents to understand and respond to their baby in a way that meets the baby's unique developmental needs. And so this is called attunement. So when the baby gets what the baby is asking for, you have this attuned relationship. And we know that attunement really is important for developing the social emotional brain. And the social emotional brain is fully developed by 18 months. So we have quite a short window here, a critical window for that social emotional brain to develop. And so we know also that that attunement promotes a much happier, contented baby. When those behavioral cues are understood. It's when there's a mismatch between what the baby says and what the baby gets. That's when you get the irritability, the difficulty, the crying, and so on, because there's a mismatch in the understanding, in the communication. Next slide, Sarah. So it's consists of 18 neurobehavioral items. I said it was from birth to 3 months. So if you have preterm babies like I was working with, you would use it as they approach term age. And the kind of things that we look at the behavioral states. And I have another slide about that next. But we also we look at sleep and habituation to light and sound. And this is really, again, a key thing for midwives to be talking to new parents about, about baby sleep and how do they sleep, because you're going to talk to them anyway about safe sleep. And then, so it kind of leads in very nicely in your role to, looking at habituation, which means that the baby, when they're asleep, they can respond to, you can see here. Actually, these aren't pictures of habituation. These are babies who are awake. So habituation is when the baby is asleep and the baby will respond to the light, where we just shine the torch over the baby's eyes briefly, and you can see the baby alerting to it. And then the baby begins to stop responding to it, which is the natural kind of developmental trajectory that you get used to. You remember, oh, it's that light, So it's an early form of learning, and it's very powerful to use with parents because they're thinking, oh, goodness, my baby, and the same with the rattle. They kind of startle to the sound, and then second, third, fourth time, less of a response, and then they habituate, meaning no response. And it really, really grabs the parents' attention, thinking, wow, so even when my baby's asleep, there's things happening in their brain and there's evidence of learning. So habituation is called the earliest form of learning. It's a real rudimentary form of learning. And it really makes parents see what their baby's capabilities. Then we look at visual, which is what you can see here in this in the pictures, where Inga has a ball and the baby's looking at the ball. Now, we do this with a face as well, and face and voice, and we much prefer the face and voice. But sometimes in the picture, it's easier just to show you with the ball. They're tracking what are babies interested in, what can babies do. And we do the same with our voice and our face, and so on. we look at crying and consolability, which is really, really important because babies cry, and it is a really important method of communication. But they don't always just cry because they're hungry. You know, they cry for lots of different reasons. And it's about understanding the cry. And we say something called learn to love the cry and stay with the baby. So it's very different in the Brazelton world. We never leave the baby. We stay and we try to make meaning. What is this cry? Is this the baby who just has a tiny little cry after you've fed them and changed them and you've put them down, and it's like they're reading a book? You know, it's before they go to, there's many babies like that. They have a tiny little cry and then they go to sleep. So I always think, oh, that's like me reading my book and then I go to sleep. And if you disturb that cry at that point, you know, if you think, oh gosh, that means pick me up and play with me, you know, then the baby's thinking, no, that's not what I was saying. I was just reading my book and having a little cry. And, you know, so really, really important as well to help people understand that. And we look, you can see muscle tone being looked at there. Inga's looking at the baby's legs, and we look at reflexes, and we look at self-regulatory behaviors, which is how the baby regulates all their different systems, the autonomic, the motor, the state, and attention and interaction. And so how they how they respond to different things and how they can protect themselves from getting you know, normal healthy term babies have a way of doing that, but some babies have difficulties, and certainly many of the babies that I would work with who had cerebral palsy or evolving motor difficulties, it's very hard to bring your hands to the middle. It's very hard to bring your hands to your mouth. Also, if you've been swaddled, because that's the cultural way to do it with your hands down by your side, then that's also very difficult. So so these are all things that you know, we like the baby, if they're going to be swaddled, that the hands are up to the mouth and so on. So these are all really important, crucial things that midwives are in a really great position to talk about. Next slide, Sarah. So behavioural states. So you can see here, and I can see my little grandchild in the green jumper looking at me. So I have to say hi, Lola. But you can see here, so babies have 6 states, and we have 3 sleep states. So state 1 is deep sleep, state 2 is light sleep, and we can see here, we can kind of, yeah, I'm not sure if anybody's in deep sleep, but maybe, and light sleep. And then state 3 is drowsy, where you're neither awake nor asleep. And then state 4 is that, you know, bright-eyed look, alert, meaning I'm looking around, I'm ready for interaction and so on. And then state 5 is a bit fussy. It's a kind of transition. You know, what am I going to do now? Am I going to calm down and go to sleep, or am I going to go to state 6? So state 6 is crying. So when you look at babies, it's really important to think about these 6 states. And again, for midwives who are very involved in helping babies feed, helping to teach parents, new mothers, how do I feed my baby, whether it's breast or bottle? And really, state 4 is very crucial for good breastfeeding or bottle feeding, any good feeding, because that's your bright alert. And if your baby doesn't have a state 4, and some compromised babies don't have a state 4, then that's going to compromise the feeding. And it's better that you look at the feeding in the context of the state that the baby's in. Next slide, Sarah. So using it in practice, you can use it in a variety of settings. You could use it right from birth in the neonatal or the maternity ward or postnatal care. It's been used in infant mental health. It's used in the NICU, as I mentioned, with babies as they approach term. Many health visitors around the country are trained in it. And, you know, many breastfeeding advisors and so on are also trained in it. So it's a collaborative working together with parents. You're not telling the parent what to do. You're saying, let's look at your baby together. So it's very much that together is really important. Let's try and make, because you don't know any more than maybe the new mother knows about what the baby's saying. But by looking at the baby together, you could kind of work it out and make sense of it. And maybe it's not clear because actually newborn babies' communications aren't that clear to begin with. So it's about that figuring out. And what you do is you make the parent interested in figuring out, thinking, oh, that means something. I wonder what that means. Does this help? Oh, maybe not. What about this? And, but by, talking to the baby and thinking about it, you get there. Next slide, Sarah. And baby's voice in maternity. So again, I've mentioned already that it's thinking about states is really important to feeding and looking at behavioural cues for feeding. But I think midwives know this very well, better than me. So, but I think it's about really for the midwife, it gives you this framework of looking at the baby together with the parent and helping, passing those skills on to the parent, this interest in the baby, this interest in the baby's communication and building that relationship. Next slide, Sarah. So these are some slides that you can look afterwards. It's just, again, what people have said about, you really do see babies in a whole new light. And you can be working for years and actually not really have thought about babies in this way. And it's a really nice framework, actually, to use. Next slide, Sarah.
Oh, I think the next one is back to me.
Okay, fine. I was just kind of rushing because I was aware of the time. Okay.
That's fine. I didn't know, just to share some of those, these are some of the benefits that practitioners and managers have shared with us about what happens when the NBO is really embedded into care. So it becomes part of the way that you talk with parents, that you give guidance. So if you don't mind, I'll just read out a few of them. Practitioner has said it makes the practice more interesting and exciting, and they're able to respond to parents with confidence regarding the needs of their babies. And practitioners also feel a sense of satisfaction from being able to provide unique care to each family, which motivates them and makes them feel more competent. And there's lots about parents feeling more confident and trusting in their practitioner. Practitioners really find using the NBO rewarding. It's a really easy tool to use, and in fact it does actually save time, that you don't come across issues far later down the line. You can really start supporting that relationship from the very beginning. And Betty, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I was just thinking it'd be really nice to hear from people if there are questions. Mm-hmm. And I suppose one of the key things is about that this is relationship building. And as we all know, everything in life is about relationships. It's considered one of the most important things that a health practitioner can do with a parent is to support that relationship. And you're really supporting the baby's social emotional development. And we know, the research shows us how much better those children do in life who have, well-developed social emotional. So although the NBO in some ways, it's a 2-day training, and I know Sarah wants to mention there's some bursaries for midwives. It's not so complicated, that this is not within your grasp to learn it, but actually it has a huge impact on babies and parents.
Yeah, thank you, Betty. That's very true. So just to wrap up, I just wanted to briefly mention, since this week is Baby Communication Week, and it's been really lovely to be invited to talk for this midwifery hour, kind of almost as part of this Baby Communication Week. So I thought I'd just give a little insight into what it is. The the week is happening this week, and this is happening every year, and it's kind of a week to go big in terms of really raising awareness and understanding about newborn babies' communication. So we set a theme, and we have daily talks. We release videos. We often launch new resources, and we put some bits out there, but we really want to hear from others what they're doing to promote baby communication. And I know many kind of units, they like to put up on they have like a parent information board. They'll put stuff about baby communication on it, or they will do some social media lives, all kinds of things. And it's really great to see so many people getting involved. So the content is really relevant for both new parents and for practitioners. So I will just show you. I'm sorry, this is probably a bit small for those of you that are looking at the slides, but we have speakers every day. Our theme this week is Amazed by Babies, and each day we're kind of looking at a myth or a misunderstanding about babies, and then we're really showcasing the truth, the amazing thing about babies. So you can find all of this on our social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube, so hopefully you can access one of those and come and have a look at the talks. We've also released some little short animation videos, and we'd love for you to be involved. I thought I'd love to just share with you the kind of vision that why we do Baby Communication Week. And I think this also really ties into what kind of is our vision as well at the Brazelton Centre, and really hope that everyone that's had the chance to listen to this will be captured by this vision and want to be part of it. And just as this is our passion, that it would be your passion too. So just to go through this, we want newborn babies to experience empathetic, responsive, sensitive care led by an understanding of their behaviour. We would love parents and carers to have easy access to information and support to understand their baby's amazing abilities, especially in communicating right from birth. We would love practitioners to make it a priority to develop knowledge and skills in newborn behaviour, to be able to give individualised, sensitive care and to support parent-baby relationships. We would love that any campaigns, policies, care pathways and other initiatives regarding babies would always promote and advocate for the baby's voice. And then finally, we hope that wider society would have a more informed understanding of babies and their development, and the vital importance of supporting and investing in the early years. So to close,
Fabulous.
Just some take-home messages. Do share with parents that their baby has amazing abilities, that they use their body language, their behaviour to communicate from birth. And remember that is just so important for that early relationship, that early brain development. And it's the things that build the foundations for lifelong health and relationships and well-being. Do come onto our course. We would absolutely love to welcome you. If you have any questions about the training, let us know. We'd be more than happy to answer. And please come and join us for the remainder of Baby Communication Week. And you will get, I think it will be on the resources page, links to our website. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. And I know I can see the passion for both of you shining through so brilliantly. And having worked with colleagues who've done both of the kinds of courses, it does change your practice, as any education does. And thank you to Sarah and Betty, because that was fantastic. And I know there's some comments coming through. I'm not sure how many questions there are. I've got some comments. And I mean, actually, I love the voyage of discovery from Betty, and I love the cues, because when you were talking about that, for me, I was thinking that's just what you need to be really aware of when you're doing examination of the newborn, whether you're doing the full examination or little one. So you really don't stress the baby, because birth itself is very stressful, of course. And the other thing I was thinking as Betty was talking, and about this sort of this, I think it was both of you talking about the old-fashioned ideas of this baby not able to do anything, achieve anything, see anything. And of course, some of the women and parents will think that also, and that's part of what we need to do as practitioners. So I'm going to go to the comments now, and I know we have to lose Betty in a few moments, so I'm just trying to get every second if I speak very quickly. Leslie Page, hi Leslie, how are you? She says, thank you, Betty. So important to help parents understand just how amazing their baby is. I went to a series of lectures by Brazelton in Canada in the early 1980s. His fascination with babies spread to us all. Absolutely. He was a fantastic man. Yes. See, I have the book. I heard him myself, and it's very, very charismatic. Makes you want to just know more about that baby. Fantastic.
Thank you, Leslie. He's a great supporter of Brazelton.
He is, fantastic. And then we have Shauna. Hi, Shauna, who says, is this part of the midwifery curriculum? It should be a standard. Well, I think the difficulty with that, I think I'll have to answer that probably as someone who might know a bit more. Some midwives who are teaching examination newborn will include this in their program. And if any midwife who's done this program will use it in her everyday practice, and you'll become aware of it. But I'm not sure that anyone's integrated it in. Betty might know.
Yeah, no.
Sarah might know.
No, it's not yet, but it's been a suggestion many, many times that it should be part of the core training of a midwife, and we would definitely agree with that. And it's part of the curriculum, but it hasn't happened yet.
So, Shauna, that was a wonderful question. Sorry, Sarah, you're going to say something.
Oh, no, I was just going to say from personal experience, going through my midwifery training and then working as a midwife, and only years later coming to work at the Brazelton Centre, learning about baby behaviour and thinking, oh my goodness, I wish I'd known this as a midwife. And we hear that actually a lot from all kinds of professionals. They say, I wish I knew this. So let's hope that it really can become part of curriculums and, really integrated into, the knowledge and the skills for midwives and for lots of other practitioners as well.
Yeah, it would help our work a lot, I think, hugely. So someone else is saying, so enjoying this. How can we make sure all practitioners working with babies get such training and learn to listen to the baby's choice? Now, this is Leslie Page again. You're having two bites of the apple, Leslie, but thank you. It was a good comment. And yes, that was through for Leslie. Okay. Well, I think, and I do say this sometimes, I'm going to say a big thank you to Betty, because I know she has to rush away. Yes. She's just been able to come in, and I'm so grateful to you for coming for this hour. But I hope we can have you again.
Yeah.
And anyone who wants to listen to her talking about the baby crying, look at your resources sheet, because that's the first clip. I have to catch up with the other ones, but I saw Betty's and I found it really helpful. And I think it would be really useful for midwives to share with women as well, and families. So thank you, Betty.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, all of you. And I'm really sorry to run, but I'm here for a wedding, and I need to run. Not
well, you'll get in trouble otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
so much. Thank you so much. Now I'm just going to wrap up a little bit now. Because time is short, I'm going to remind you, have a look at the recording, which will be sent to you, which will have the whole lot. And I'm going to say to you all, thank you also to Amy and also Paul, who are in the background trying to sort out the gremlins. I don't know if they've swiftly killed them or whatever, but I hope so. Horrible. And also, just to let you know, for those of you who like the podcasts at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, it will be with you, and you'll hear more of Sarah and Betty in your ears as you're either doing your running or whatever you do at 6 o'clock in the morning. Next week, we have on Maternity and Midwifery Hour, we have Fatima Mohammed and Jenny Hall talking about spirituality in midwifery. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So do come along. Don't forget to book for the Northern Festival and Cardiff if you want, 12th of September. And also I'll say another big thank you to Sarah and Betty. I found it so helpful and interesting. I want to have them back again for even more. I want to have a little bit. I want a little bit of the NBO again, a little refresher. Yes. That would be lovely. I'm going to pin you down to that, Sarah.
There's always so much to say and so little time. So we would be delighted to come back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. But in the meantime, to our audience, thank you so much for being with us this evening. It's been an absolute delight. Look after yourselves and your loved ones, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Take care.